The Israeli President Isaac Herzog has paid tribute to the victims of the Bondi terror attack, meeting with members of the Jewish community at the beach and laying a wreath at the Pavillion. He's in Sydney at the start of a 4-day visit to Australia at the invitation of the federal government. Members of the Jewish community say his visit is a source of comfort in the wake of the terror attack in December. The visit has been declared a major event by the New South Wales government and security is extremely tight. People attending events are being screened by metal detectors, police are in the water, in a helicopter and snipers are on nearby roofs. The President addressed the crowd at Bondi Pavillion.
In the aftermath of the attack, the people of Australia stood together in grief and solidarity with the Jewish community. The world's only Jewish state, the State of Israel and the nation of Israel, stood together with the Australian people. We stood with Australian Jews, for we are one big family, and when one Jew is hurt, all Jews feel their pain. That is why I'm here today, to embrace and console the bereaved families. Anti-Semitism here in Australia is not a Jewish problem. It is an Australian problem and a global problem. Over the generations, one thing has become clear. Hatred that starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews. This is why the current rise in anti-Semitism around the world is a global emergency, and we must all act to fight against it. I welcome the positive steps already taken by the Australian government to tackle anti-Semitism since the Bondi attack. Leaders across all sectors of society must speak out clearly and consistently against anti-Semitism, because silence in the face of hatred is complicity.
That was the Israeli President Isaac Herzog speaking earlier this morning down at Bondi. Let's get more analysis on those comments and the President's visit. I'm joined by the ABC Global Affairs editor, Laura Tingle. Laura, I know that you were listening intently into that media conference there. What did you make of the President's comments?
Well, Kath, obviously he was trying to emphasise, the solidarity of Israeli people with Australian people and the Australian Jewish community in the wake of Bondi. In some of his comments and during the questions, he was asked about whether enough had been done before Bondi, and while he was being diplomatic about it, he said he shared the sense of frustration that he thought more should have been done to sort of deal with anti-Semitism in Australia, but he was clearly trying to emphasise that message of unity. We saw some images of him meeting with some of the victims and families who'd been affected by the Bondi attack, and it was clearly very important to them that he was there, that he's come to Australia.
He just took 4 questions, 2 from Australian journalists and 2 from Israeli journalists. What were they and what were his responses?
They're all very politely put, Kath. I think the most pointed one was probably the question of what his message was to the people who were planning to protest against his visit. He tended to say, well, these are people who don't believe that the State of Israel should have a right to exist, who are hostile to Israel as a nation, and he's pointed out that Israel is a nation of Jewish people. So he sort of dealt with it in that way. It's one of those never the twain shall meet issues, I think, that the protesters are essentially saying, we're protesting about what the Israeli government's actions have been since October 7. He's focusing on the fact that Israel, as he says, has been under attack for most of its existence and has a right to defend itself.